You're still drawing the thing right now?
I am.
Is
I'm
it,
I'm working real hard.
All right. Okay. Welcome back, everybody, to the Melodies and Masterpieces podcast, the show where we don't really know what we're doing yet, and we're putting stuff on the internet till we find a purpose.
Episode 2.
Episode number 2. And you know what they say? Number 2, gotta go do the podcast.
I heard terrible twos, like, with babies.
Is the second child the worst one?
No, it's when they're like 2 years old.
Because you were the second child.
I was not the second child. I'm the firstborn. You're the thirdborn.
Oh yeah. Why did I think you were the second one?
Why did you think my sibling was older than me?
I don't know. Anyway, so last episode we talked about a bunch of stuff that whatever we think about at 11 p.m. at night. Today we actually have some ideas to talk about. At least I do.
You do. I don't.
So I was on TikTok today, even though I said in the last episode how much I hate it.
TikTok.
I do, but you know what? I was eating a turkey, bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich this morning, and I said, you know what? Let me take a break of listening to what I usually listen to and see what the kids, what the kiddies are up to. And I was talking about this actor or actress, I should say, who's making a lot of buzz because she's in a new Disney movie, and I'm of course talking about her name's Rachel Zegler. Is that it?
Ziegler.
Rachel Ziegler. She is, I think, 17 or 18, 19, around there.
Mm-hmm.
She is, if you didn't know, she's playing the new Snow White in the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs movie coming out. And a lot of people don't like her.
I don't.
I don't love her attitude either. She
controversial opinion. Let women have their, basic. I can't talk. Anyways, if I start to stutter, it's because I'm drawing right now for our podcast stuff. Anyways, what I was trying to get to, because I'm not drawing now, so she tends to talk about, she's like, it's not 1937 anymore,
She loves mentioning that year over and over again.
She's like, we need another girl boss movie. Some of us have had enough of the girl boss movie, because some of us, are at that point. It's like, we like to see, the old traditional values. We know that's like, back in that time it wasn't as, healthy, but sometimes seeing like stupid rom-coms is nice.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who is, shocker, not a woman, it's even a little annoying for me.
Not?
I know. That's the big reveal, guys.
Whoa.
But
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, we're gonna have a gender reveal party actually. But the way I feel about it, I don't really have an issue with a lot of girl boss movies. Like, I know Barbie is one that a lot of the young and older women are really loving. I haven't seen it yet. I've seen clips from it.
It's a good one. That's not like a super, super girl boss movie. It's not like, yeah, I don't need a man. I fight my own dragons and my inner demons, and I'm a great person.
It looks like a fun little...
Barbie is great.
It looks like a fun little film that, I might find myself watching one day. I used to watch, like, the old Barbies. We used to have a couple of them on DVD. Anyway, I highly recommend you go out. If I can find... I don't want to make a promise because I don't really know how to do it yet. I would say I'll put in an audio clip of her saying something, but I'm not that good at technology yet, so pray for me that I'll eventually get that good. But she basically goes on to say that, the princess is not going to get rescued by the prince. She's going to be on her own. And she was like, it's a weird movie because the prince is basically her stalker. And she does this thing where she's like, weird, and everybody's like impersonating it. It's making me laugh. And I'm not even really big into like bully culture like that. Like, we just hate someone because they had one bad take. It's like bad take after bad take. Because even with the writing strike, which as of recording this is still going on, the writers union thing going on, or writers guild, I don't know. She herself is like, yeah, if I'm going to be a Disney princess, I should be paid, she said, like, by the hour every time I'm on set or something like that. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, because
she has to wear that, Spirit Halloween looking dress.
Yeah, it's not a beautiful dress. Maybe that's just a placeholder
I'm
dress.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm hating on this movie.
You
I
don't rate
don't
it.
even care that it's not even out. The PR team sucks. Everyone's like, I hate Snow White. Like,
It
put some respect on her name. Put some respect on that 16-year-old Disney princess. Was she 16 or was she 14? I don't know. They're all usually teenagers.
it's just it's one of those things that as the years pass, Hollywood feels the need to innovate things for no reason other than just to say this is the new version.
New version.
Um, like they did that with the Charlie's Angels movie. I don't know if you saw that. That was a dumb movie. Now, to be fair, Charlie's Angels was like, I think it came out like the 60s and 70s. It was like, it was like softcore corn, I'll say for reasons. Uh,
I almost let that slip. You would have to censor that.
yeah, I would. I hope you guys are liking the censor tritone I'm using instead of a beep sound because I feel like the beep sound's a little.
It's a little bold and brash.
It's a little tasteless, if you ask me. And like, I feel like the tritone has a very, I mean, it's the most dissonant interval, which I disagree with personally. So, for those of you who
Hot
don't know,
take.
for those of you who don't know, dissonance and consonance in music is if you take two notes, and I'll probably put like examples underneath this for the audio listeners. And consonance is when the harmony sounds really good. The notes could sit next to each other. They could, grab some lunch, get a coffee, and they get along real well. And it feels like the notes are just gliding real nice next to each other. You'll typically find it with like most major and minor harmonies and triads. And then dissonance is when often people call them crunchy chords or cluster chords, is when the notes are really close together and it kind of has that weeble wobble effect you hear in your ear. I find that the minor second, which is basically when you take two notes directly next to each other on a keyboard, I find that more dissonant than a tritone in my ear. I know that technically you were supposed to think that the tritone is like, they call it the devil's interval or something like that because people thought it was satanic, which apparently is a myth actually, but that's a discussion for another day when I decide to interview one of my theory nerd friends. But yeah, anyway, interval talk over. Rachel Ziegler, I give her a 3 out of 10. I hope she learns from this. I don't even know what work she'll get after this with this bad PR rep she's getting right now. And I'm not even a big movie buff, I'm going to be honest. I'm not big into movies. I think movies are boring most of the time.
I'm a big Disney person, so this pisses me off.
Disney I'm on and off about a lot of the time. I still haven't watched Elementals, which I know that's not Disney, but
That's
it's
Pixar.
not. It's Pixar, but they're like it's like Disney's next door neighbor.
Yeah, that one's actually really good.
I've heard it's pretty good.
They also just did awful PR for that movie.
What's that little rock guy's name that they were really trying to make a meme?
They're really trying so hard to make that kid a meme. I don't even remember his name because he's so...
Let me try to look him up.
His name's Claude.
His name's Claude. Was he a rock kid? I remember him being a rock child.
He was one of the Earth Elementals.
Yeah, here he is. Is his name Claude? Claude. Yeah, his name's Claude. They were trying to make him like a real big meme, I remember, and just everybody hated him.
Because it was bad.
I heard it was bad, that people didn't like him. So something else I wanted to talk about. Tomorrow's a pretty big day for me. So as we mentioned in the last episode, the school year for us is starting in like 3 days or 4 days. For me, I move in back to campus in like 3 days from now.
I don't live on campus, so I can't share the same sentiment.
No, but classes do start like next week. Tomorrow, though, is an audition for me. I have an audition for our school's main stage and chamber opera. Let me look for the names of the opera while I'm talking about it. Never mind, my phone's across the room. Sorry, folks, you don't get to know the name of the opera tonight. It's a French one and it's an English one. For the audition, it's pretty standard stuff. Two songs, 2 arias, art songs, one in a foreign language. They've preferred French, of course, because, French opera. And a English piece, English aria or art song. And I just wanted to talk a bit about, audition preparation, audition experiences in the art world, what the equivalent of an audition would be for you, like sending in your portfolio and what that's like for you?
Okay. Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Oh, I was completely zoned out.
Yeah, stop drawing while we're talking. You can work on that later.
I'm sorry, I just finished it.
You finished it?
Yeah.
All right, everybody, history's been made. The picture you see in the
Oh,
little box,
oh,
that was made
oh.
right on this moment, unless we decide to change it the day after, which I
Oh,
doubt we will.
I just uploaded it into the folder. Anyways, so art-wise, from my experience, maybe that's just me, but I haven't had as much experience with submitting portfolios and stuff, mainly because, I didn't apply to art school. I didn't do a lot of competitive submissions for art. I did have like one big thing that I did back in high school. I was in AP art, and I had to provide a portfolio to my AP art teacher, and that was like terrifying because the AP art teacher was known for being scary, to say the least. And I remember she pulled me into her office and she was like, "This is good." And then for the rest of the year, she berated me and tore me down.
How so?
Okay, well, my idea for my AP art concept, I don't remember the exact query that I put, but basically I was query. I was basically discussing the, impact of social media, the negatives of it, especially on our youth.
I remember that piece you made.
I covered a lot of, the fakeness of social media, the predatory behavior of people of social media, and all that kind of like awful stuff that gets hidden behind the ads of Instagram and stuff like that. Because it was all digital collages that I did, she didn't believe it was real art, basically, because I was doing it all digitally and it wasn't physical media, and she believed that physical media was more artistic than digital media.
Which is funny because in that same school they would have a bulletin board in the hallway of exclusively digital art, and a lot of it was kind of like, it's not even that it was bad because their skills were bad, it was bad because the ideas they came up with were terrible.
Well, that's because that was the graphic design class, and you have all different sorts of artists in a graphic design class. I was in an AP art class, and that's technically like, oh, you're supposed to be, doing stuff that is above that.
Above that. So what was like...
It was a really stupid concept.
So what was like the submission process like? Like what did they ask of you, and how did you present it?
I had to create, I think it was 10 pieces, all within this, idea that I had. And I also had to submit, progress photos and stuff like that. And I really wish I got to, submit one of my favorite pieces, which was, I forget, the name of it is fleeting me now, but I had to create, it was about, I want to say, like 3 feet by 4 feet wide. It was a pretty big thing. Mm-hmm. And I made it during the presidential election. So, it was during the whole Trump and Biden thing, which was insane. I'm not going to talk about politics here, but there was a lot of, unrest in the world from both sides, from, who was going to be president and everything. And it was inspired completely by that. And I wish I could have submitted something like that, because I absolutely love that piece, because the big draw of that piece, that it was, these canvases that were covered in tissue paper, but the tissue paper was only being adhered to the canvas via water, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about, the fragility of, the country's state and all that kind of crazy stuff. I'm not going to go too deep into it, because that's insane if I would talk about it.
No, talk about politics. What side of the debate are you on?
I can't say that.
Quite personally, I'm a Capricorn, so I voted for Tim Dillon.
I voted for my dad.
You know, I would have voted for my dad, but his taxes were too low. I wanted to pay more. He wasn't giving me enough. It wasn't giving me enough to pay. I'm not a Capricorn, by the way. I'm not an astrology person.
You're a Pisces.
Yeah, I'm a Pisces by definition, but.
What, you relate more to a Capricorn?
No, I don't relate to any of it because astrology. Oh my gosh, people are gonna get upset, but like,
well,
I'm not a big astrology person.
I'm a Gemini, and I get Gemini hate all the time.
Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. And I'm gonna go a bit off topic about this. I know even astrology people that I know, like astrology people that I know, they tell me they're like, yeah, half of the stuff like it's baloney, most of it, because like, I'll read something and it's like, you're a Pisces, which means you like to breathe in through your lungs, and you know how to read your native language. Oh my gosh, that's so me. Yeah, because that's about 90% of the planet. And our school newspaper also puts like horoscopes, and they make no sense. One of them was like Pisces, maybe stop writing the Twilight fanfic and start doing your laundry. I don't. First of all, I always do my laundry. I actually did it before recording, and it's neatly folded on my bed right now. And second of all, I never even touched a Twilight. Although I wish I did. Maybe we'll have to watch it and then have a podcast review about the Twilight movies. We should do that. I'm writing it down.
You're writing it down.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know nothing about how, the art world, as far as visual art, does submissions and stuff.
It's weird because, people have all different perspective on art. I've been met with many people telling me that my art isn't real because I do digital a lot now. But then I turn around and I'm like, I do traditional. And they're like, well, that's not art.
Yeah,
that's anime fan art. And I'm like, what the?
Whenever I draw, and I don't do it as deeply as Laurel does because I'm not that good. And also, it's just, I don't know. Drawing for me is just a little thing I do. It's something I do when I'm bored or if I'm struck with creativity, but it's not something I'd go out of my way to be like, post on Instagram, my drawings. But like when I journal, I'll draw little doodles and dabbles. And I used to make videos in the style of like, you remember when Draw My Life videos were a thing?
I ate those things up. Oh, gosh.
I still do. They're honestly pretty interesting. Basically, for those of you who don't know, the Draw My Life, how they would format it is it's a time-lapse video where somebody draws on a whiteboard in real time like what they're talking about, and then they erase it and then they go on to the next bit. And I used to make videos like that telling real stories. I wish I didn't delete all those videos. I wish I privated them, but it was a old channel of mine that I used to really put a lot of passion into, and I think I had like 15 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I going with this? I don't remember. But drawing, yeah. Digital art. That's what I was trying to say. And digital art, it's not easy because similar to using technology in music, which is something I do want to touch on in a bit, is it takes its own way of learning how to use the medium. But to get back onto the subject of auditions, I figured since mine's tomorrow, a good way to give myself a good vibe going into it, I figure I'll just out loud say the things that I do to prepare for auditions, and you can tell me things you do as well, because I know you audition for stuff, even now in music, because like to get into choirs and stuff, you can't just walk in. If you're going into a high-level group, you often have to do sight reading, or you have to prepare maybe even a solo, or maybe they give you a piece that you have to know very well. So for my audition, as I said, it's for an opera. You do the audition and you get cast into one of two operas. The main stage, which is like a bigger production, usually takes longer. And then the chamber, which is also a big production, usually takes less time to put on because it's typically a shorter show, but they still, they don't slack on the spectacle of it. They still put on a great performance, and the standards are still just as high. So, go into it, even if it's a school audition, like if it's a school you go to, the panelists, the professors, Go into it as if you've never met them before, and you want to make the best first impression you can. Number one thing I would say, in no particular order, dress nice. So the way you dress really matters in these auditions. And I made that mistake my first time auditioning in college because I'm so used to doing musical theater auditions in my high school where they're kind of like, all right, just show up after school, sing the song, and then you leave. And I mean, you know that too because you did plenty of theater auditions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just kind of show up, and you, of course, in the real like equity actor world, that's not how you do it, but that's what I was used to. And I even asked some of my friends, I was like, do we get dressed nice? They were like, no, not super nice, but you got to realize that's opera buffs. Many of them dress super nice just because it's Tuesday. So
Yeah, on
their standards
basis.
their standards are a bit different. During the summer especially, I like to dress nice. I mean, not nice. I like to dress comfortably. I'll wear like some nice shorts and a t-shirt. And that's exactly what I wore into my first opera audition. And I was embarrassed because the guy before me, not only was he a spectacular baritone, but he was dressed like Prince Charming himself had walked through the door. And I had to walk on after that. And I was needless to say, I didn't make it in. I don't think it was just because of the clothes, though. I think I didn't make it in because I didn't really bring it. I didn't bring my passion, but I didn't bring the fire and the sauce. I just kind of went up there and sang and thought that would be enough. So I would say number one, dress nice. I can't talk for the women's perspective. Sorry. Maybe I'll get somebody else, female opera singer on here who could touch more on that. But for the guys out there, what I would say to dress nice for an audition, you don't have to wear a full tuxedo unless maybe they'll ask for it. Do have a suit. Always have a suit on standby. So if you're in music school, you're typically going to be in a choir. And if you're in a choir, you need to have a tux. And I know tons of guys who are like, I hate having this tux. I barely use it. Well, I mean, if you're going to be doing voice auditions, you have yourself a tux that you hold on to. And you don't even have to use all of it. Like my choir tux, I just use it for the black pants because they fit me nicely. And, it's always in my room because it's in my choir tux bag. And they fit nice and they look good. So I use those. Typically, I'll wear of course, a collared shirt, not a polo. Never wear a polo because it just kind of looks a little too business casual. I like to wear a button-up shirt that's either a solid color or it has a tasteful design on it. The one that I'm going to be wearing tomorrow was black and white, and it has sort of it doesn't look like a bandana, but it kind of has similar, it's like smaller designs that sort of look like a bandana, but it goes with the outfit, and it doesn't make me look like a traffic cone sticking out. Just know how to pick colors well, I'd say. Don't try to stick out like a sore thumb, but don't be afraid to put some effort into it. Do your hair, of course. If you're a guy who just kind of lets his hair flop over, it doesn't hurt. Put a little gel in it, slick it back, whatever. I would say just don't wear a watch or much jewelry, because I think like when you show a bit of the wrist, makes you look a bit more adult, more professional. I don't wear a tie when I audition. I typically just unbutton the top button, maybe top two buttons of my buttoned-up shirt. And yeah, just go up there with confidence, even if you mess up. And this is one thing that, I'm sure both of us have done with the amount of times we've done performances. In auditions or in dress rehearsals, I'm sure we both have stories where we've done a pretty noticeable screw up, right?
I mean, I can't really remember.
You're just too good?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I just don't have a good enough memory.
Well, I know I've had a ton of times where I've just blanked on words and I made them up. There was a time, this was pretty embarrassing. It was late stage tech week of last year's main stage opera. We did Gianni Schicchi, where I played the role of Simone. Gianni Schicchi is a great show, by the way. If you can find a version of it online, highly recommend it. Really funny show. And there's a line that I kept missing two words. And in opera, every single word is taken into accountability as far as the rhythms, and unless it's recitative, which is a whole other thing. But this is a very rhythmic ensemble-based show, which means every person has to hit their mark in order for it to sound fluid and continuous. and we had a guest in the room who was a real big time professional singer who played Johnny Skiki live on stage professionally, and he was visiting us, and I kept messing up this one part, and the orchestra director was like, restart it, restart it, restart it, and I was like, oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Why am I blanking? And then the guest speaker actually came up to me, and he was like very kindly like telling me what the words are. I was like, oh, thank you, man. I was so embarrassed though. But in those moments, you don't. A huge pet peeve of mine, and we've both seen this from high school theater and stuff. When people mess up, they stop the song, they stop singing, they go, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," and then they just stop.
I'm guilty of that.
You do that?
I mean, back in high school, yeah. I mean, our director for shows, whenever I would like mess up, it was like not often that I messed up because literally I would like live and breathe this script of shows because I wanted to never be wrong.
That's good.
Because I have a problem with that. No, but like whenever I would, mess up, I would like go sorry and then continue, but that's still a bad habit that I had back in high school.
Yeah, I mean, in high school it's a bit more forgivable because you're not a professional, you know. But I know people who are working for their masters in performance who want to be professional singers, dancers, actors, whatever. And even still, they'll mess up a rhythm and piano's still playing, conductor's still going, and they just go, "Oh, I'm sorry. Can we restart?" Like, sorry, honey, that's not how it works. Sorry, I probably
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't say honey. That's my deep rooted misogyny. Um, you if you mess up, you just our director now, our choir director, they've normalized that whenever you mess up, you raise your hand, just to show the director that yeah, I know what I did, I messed up, but I'm gonna keep going so we can continue the rehearsal. And I like that. And when I become a teacher, I'm probably going to implement the same type of thing because I feel that's the most effective as far as getting work done. There's so many times that directors waste their time because they keep needing to go back and redo things over and over and over again. But when the student knows what they did, plus it looks and sounds a lot better for you to raise your hand than for you to go, "Yeah, I know I messed up," because that just kind of sounds weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I overthink things, but
I
if you
think you
mess up,
overthink it because you're a music person.
maybe, maybe, but if you mess up, acknowledge it somehow, shake your head, or just like look the director in the eye and give him like a little nod of, yeah, I know what I did. And just keep
Mm-hmm.
going. If you mess up the words during a performance, especially if it's in a foreign language and you're in an area where the people don't speak that foreign language, just bibbity boppity make it up. Like make up syllables and words until you get back on track. I've done that before. I've done that plenty of times where I've sung. There was a time I sang in German. Uh, I was singing Dein Blaues Auge. I don't remember who that's by. Uh, and I forgot. It was during my jury, which for those of you who don't know, a jury is when at the end of the semester, it's basically your performance final where you sing in front of all of the directors of your program. And it's basically a mini recital. And I lost where I was in the music as far as words. And I just started saying random German basic words. It was only for like 3 words, but in the moment, it feels like you just said a paragraph of absurdities. Um, and you just get back on track and you keep going. Or what I've also done is I've sung the wrong verse in Italian in a song called Faga Luna che in Argenti. I got to, which is a very long song and has a lot of different text in it in Italian. I went to the second verse by accident at one point, and you know what I did? Instead of going, sorry, let me go back to the first verse and sing, I just continued in the second verse, and then when it got to the second verse part, I switched to the other. Actually, no, I think I sang the second verse again because it makes sense with the story of the piece. But you just keep going, and especially if it's in like if I'm performing in front of an American audience and I'm singing Italian, I doubt there's any Italian scholars in the audience, or there's many that if I make a mistake, we're gonna get a 2-star review on Yelp. You know. Now, if it's in English, then you have a separate thing you got to do. You have to learn how to improvise on the spot. One thing I love to do when learning a new, typically I do this in musical theater. When I'm learning a new thing, if there's a part where I know I keep messing up, I'll have a line in the back pocket in case something goes wrong to like catch myself back up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever think of that? Or something like that to save yourself in those situations? Did you ever have like a type of like emergency button?
I mean, like, I've been in very few, featured roles or anything, whether it be in, like, a choir setting, a theater setting. And I've had to, like, like, go off the cuff and everything, go off my script and everything, because other people have messed up. When I was in a production of Fiddler on the Roof when we were both in high school, I played the matchmaker Genta, and my character was very, very talkative, very, very,
You had a lot of
constantly.
lines.
I had paragraphs.
Yeah, you
Someone
had
would be
very, very long lines.
like, so the character would be like, "Hi, Enta," and I'd be like, "So let me talk for like 5 minutes."
Gee,
And
that
then
was
you
a
can
very
say
funny part,
good,
though.
and then I'll continue to talk for another 5 minutes, and you say okay, and then I'll leave.
Yeah, that was a very talkative role. So what was your method of like knowing when to say and what so you didn't mess up?
I have a somewhat like photographic memory, so if I stare at like lines long enough, I can start to imagine them in my head whenever I like start talking.
Right.
And I found it like very easy to start getting those paragraphs down because I started thinking of them as like popular music songs, because for some reason, weirdly enough, if I listen to a popular song or a song that I like enough, I can learn the lyrics like that.
Yeah.
So I started to just like use that kind of thinking to get the paragraphs of words down. But back to the main thing, people would jump, skip, or completely make up lines even though they had one line in between my paragraphs, because they'd be so, I guess, wrapped up in the fact that I was putting on this like stupid New York accent and I was walking around as an old lady, that they would like twist something up, and then I would just be like, oh, okay, here's something silly to go along with that. Just because I was such a character that could literally say anything at any time.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that, of course, of jumping lines. There's a time when we were in a production of The Crucible, and I was
That's where we
Judge.
met.
That's where we first really started talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was the part of Judge Hathorne, and you were Mary
Mary
something.
Warren.
Mary Warren, yeah.
I was one of those little girls in the church.
Uh, so I was the assistant to the main judge, Danforth, and the role of Hathorne is a bit weird because you do have a good amount of lines and you show up on stage a lot, but it's one of those roles, and I've always had luck with getting these specific types of roles where you have a good amount of lines, but they pop in like so inconsistently. And how I would work on memorizing it is every time there was a line, like two lines before what I was going to say, I'd put a little like flare symbol next to it in my script, so that's like my warning sign of my line to come. Uh, that's how I did. But there's been times where we were in rehearsal together, and I have two lines that sound like very similar to each other, but they have like a one word difference.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, Your Honor, may I? And then there's another one that's like, Your Honor, may I speak to her? And Your Honor, may I speak to her is like 5 pages ahead of where we would be in the moment had I said the first one. And there's one time we were in a dress rehearsal like 2 days before opening night, and I said, may I speak to her by accident? And the guy who played Danforth, he was trying to save it, but he just was like, all right, I guess we're skipping 5 pages. And luckily, I got really lucky because the stage manager caught it and the director wasn't there. So I would have gotten like the verbal like brick to my sternum of a lifetime. I would have gotten like torn to shreds. And I mean, listen, rightfully so, because there's no reason why 2 days before opening you should be struggling with lines. I know that's a very teachery thing of me to say, but you had this whole time to prepare, and listen, I was embarrassed that I did it. But that taught me to have a back door. Like if I had ever done that, actually in that moment, I remember saying to myself, if I ever do that again, I'll just say like, oh, excuse me, Your Honor, I speak out of turn. Please proceed. And then they continue the scene, and then eventually I'll come back and say my line.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when it's not your fault, it gets really frustrating. Like, there's been times where rehearsals will just go down the gutter because one person doesn't prepare. And that's such a pet peeve of mine. I know I say pet peeve a lot, but I'm fueled by hatred in this life. So, no, I'm just kidding. I don't hold a lot of anger, but
I do.
yeah, you're very angry. You're punching the wall right now.
I am.
Yeah, yeah,
My knuckles are bleeding. You know, I'm angry.
yeah. Uh, I just hate being in productions when there's like, let's say there's 10 people in the cast, right? And 7 of the people, they have, let's say, average or above average accountability of their part, right? They learn and memorize their role pretty early on. Maybe they don't have it fully memorized, but they're putting effort in, and they're more than ready by the time of costumes and makeup and all that stuff. And there's the people who go above and beyond, and the day they get their role, they start memorizing stuff, which is cool. And then you get the people who like they're still calling line while the pit orchestra is there. I'm talking specifically for musicals and operas. And like why did you even, I hate to say it, but like why did you audition for the show if you know you're not going to be able to be up to the standard? I don't know, maybe that's just me. What do you think?
I mean, like, granted, this is coming from like a person that would be the type to be like, oh, I know my role, I have the script, I'm gonna learn everything in the first day. But also from like a psych perspective, like, sometimes learning, you know, something that you don't talk in your day-to-day basis is like really hard, and you never know what's going on with like people's lives, which might make it difficult to learn their lines. Like, I know when I had lines and shows and stuff like that, I would sit on the floor in my parents' room. They would have the script. They would read the whole script and stop when I had to speak. They wouldn't make it obvious, like, here's the line, look directly at me and wait. It would be, they would sit and they would read the thing. I don't know how if your parents did the same. My parents were very involved in with me learning lines, because when I got my first role as Mary Warren, I was so scared. I was like, please read to me. Yeah, so I made them do that.
No, my parents, they offered to help as much as they could. I'm just a very solo type of learner with my role. I like to personally deep dive into the show as much as I can. And then I often find joy in, after learning all about my role, explaining it to people. Because I always say, if you can teach it, you can do it. And a good way to test yourself, and not even just in music or in art, but in general in life, if you're trying to learn a new skill, as you're learning it, as you learn new stuff about it, like, talk to yourself as if you're talking to a 5-year-old teaching them about it. Because if you can explain complex things in the most simple ways, you have like shown near mastery of it, in my opinion. But it's been a long time since this has happened, but there's times where like people just don't know their voice part in the ensemble parts of the show. They don't know their harmonies. People are forgetting words. Leads are, saying line more than usual. That hasn't happened to me since, I shouldn't really say, but it's not happening now, I should say. Hasn't happened for a long time. It's not happening now. Hasn't happened in any of the operas I've been in. Hasn't happened in a very long time. And it's not happening in any of the things I'm working with now. So if you're in one of the things I'm working in now, you're not doing any of it. Applause to you. And I'm very proud of you. Yeah. Good job. So that's my spiel about preparation. So since we're on the subject of theater and musical theater, what were some like, oh man, I was gonna ask like, what were some wacky moments from when you were in a show? Like, just memorable moments.
You're like asking as if we weren't in pretty much every single show together in high school.
Well, yeah, but there's people listening who haven't been in any of it, and there's 2 of us here, and I don't want to do all the talking. I have to save my golden voice for tomorrow.
I have pretty fond memories of, albeit it was Godspell. That was my senior year. That was the show that we did amidst, COVID and everything. And despite like the whole, like, what the world threw at us. Like, it was such a good show to be a part of. It was just like such a good vibes from the cast. Granted, like, there was some negativity because at our high school at the time completely like blocked out sophomores and freshmen from being in the show. It was only juniors and seniors that were allowed because of, numbers and everything due to
Oh, I
COVID.
forgot about that. I forgot they did that.
Yeah, they completely blocked out the freshmen and sophomores from being in the show. So it was a really small group. I believe it was 30 of us. When, our normal school musicals would be like 80 people. There was just 30 of us, and it was like a really quaint and homey show. The band that would play all the live music was actually on stage with us. They were propped up behind, and it was just a really good show to look back on. It's also funny because everyone had, comedic roles in the show. I did a lot of like impressions and stuff like that. It was tough because we all had to wear these like goofy masks, but
The singer's residence mask.
well, not the ones that like are actually really nice. These ones were
These are the early designs that looked like big duck
the like
bills.
early designs. COVID had hit like a truck everywhere, and they're like, here's these masks to try and maybe fix it.
And listen, those masks, as goofy as they may have looked, they got the job done. And in my opinion, maybe it was just the people I was surrounded with, they complained so much about them. That goes into the whole like complaining about masks period, which I'm not going to get into because that's going to give me a migraine.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter was, in school at that time, you had to wear a mask. Those were the rules. And we had to sing still. So we had to come up with some type of solution. And I highly recommend just, Google on your phone right now, singers COVID mask or whatever. It literally looks like a duck bill. Literally.
It widowy looks like a duck bill.
Widowy. But it
No, I still have mine, and I wish I could show, the listeners what it looks like. Mine was tie-dyed, and it had
you guys tie-dyed yours for Godspell.
We tie-dyed Godspell because, 70s, because that's when the original movie came out. We also, this is gonna sound like really, really silly. So if y'all like listening don't know what Godspell is, it's basically the Bible.
It's like a psychedelic rock story of the Bible, of the I don't know which testament it is. I never watched the show.
I don't know either. I don't know too much on the Bible myself. All I know is that our leading guy played Jesus.
Yeah, he sure did.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But I think like the craziest thing is that it was this fun musical that had all this like spunky music. I sang a song that alluded to, Mary Magdalene and that character, and but at the end of the musical, there was the crucifixion of, Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was like really intense for the ending of a show.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about like that and Jesus Christ Superstar, because the idea is the story, even from a non-religious standpoint, if you're not Christian, Catholic, or even if you're atheist, whatever, the idea is we'll take the story because as a plot line, it's an interesting story. Sure, why not? But I don't know. It's kind of weird when they take it and they make it a circus. Like, sure, I'm not super offended by it. And if I don't want to see the show, I know I don't have to. But I think it's a little weird, some of the show ideas people come up with these days. But yeah, the singer mask, people I knew always complained about them because it was like, oh, it makes my face sweat and it's really hot and it's too... It's like, guys, it's either you sing with the mask or you don't sing. So pick one. We can't have both. I was in a couple productions where they were trying to get rid of masks, and this was like peak COVID 2020. They went from the singer's residence mask to us using thin fabric masks, to us using little plastic shields on our chins. Didn't even cover the nose and mouth. There was a little plastic thing on our chin.
I remember
And
this.
I straight up told my director, I said, like, listen, I'm either going to wear the duck bill mask or I'm not going to be in the show. And they were like, okay, fine, you can wear well, whatever makes you happy, which was nice. I'm glad they weren't going to be like, no, you're either going to wear what I want or you're going to be kicked out. But, I mean, I understand the frustration that the directors must have felt, but people were getting sick, and I didn't want to get sick. That's my story.
Real.
So talking about Godspell, we were talking about kind of the controversy that a lot of people didn't want, especially since where we grew up, it was pretty heavily Christian and Jewish. And there was a lot of kids who didn't want to audition for the show because their parents didn't agree with it. And that's got me thinking about other shows that high schoolers have attempted to do but just simply shouldn't. And I know Rent has been on my mind for a while. That's another one that I'm still surprised high schools do, because it's such it has a lot to do with sex. And the whole point of it is it's these artists who believe in crazy ideas. They believe in love is love. They believe in, well, that's not a crazy idea. Don't take that out of context. But, well, in the 90s, it was a crazy idea, of course. Gay marriage was still illegal. People identifying as, transsexual or transgender was not a really recognized thing socially. So it was a different time. But as far as being in it, there's a lot of sexual innuendos. Typically, the dances are choreographed with sexual movements in mind. There's a lot of making out on stage. There's a lot of kissing on stage. There's booty grabs. There's booty shakes. There's a part where...
Do you participate in any of that? Do you shake your booty?
Yeah, I actively do. I'm actually lead booty shaker for our production. I have a T-shirt and everything.
I was about to say, do you have like a T-shirt or a medal or something that says like lead booty shaker?
It has my little name tag, and then on the back it says big old booty on it. Booty quake thrust. Booty quake thrust. That's a Clone High reference if you don't get that.
Guys, please watch Clone High. Please watch Clone High. I'll talk to you about Clone High. Y'all know my social media. Please talk to me about Clone High.
So yeah, Rent. I was watching a high school production of it. I couldn't even get through it just because it was making me a little uncomfortable. I mean, listen, the production I was watching, the band was good, the set looked great, the kids could sing, great, cool. I don't want to watch a scene. There's a song called Contact in Rent, which if you know Rent, it's the sex scene where typically it's the different couples, they're on separate beds and they're just under covers. And they're just like jimbling and jambling under there, like pushing all the fabric around, and they're like moaning.
Hey, yo.
They're like moaning and saying a bunch of icky words. And
Don't
then
call them icky.
Yeah, okay, whatever. And then a character dies of AIDS.
Yeah, of AIDS.
Character dies of AIDS, and what?
That just made me think of falsettos.
Falsettos. Yeah. Sorry, I took my melatonin before recording this, and it's starting to...
Falsettos is
starting to work its
very
magic.
much like that. Falsettos is very much the same. It's during the AIDS epidemic and everything. And it's about, like... I love falsettos with all of my heart. That musical... Oh my gosh.
I watched the synopsis of it, and it seems interesting.
It's so good.
I'm
going to make you watch it.
Yeah, okay, I guess we can watch it one night.
No, because there's the pro shot of it, and it's so good, and it has Christian Borle in it, and and it's like an amazing story. Sorry to like tangent real fast, but I absolutely love falsettos, and I've always loved falsettos because the music is amazing, and the story of Marvin and Whizzer and Trina, and everything about that, and then there's like It explores everything, and then, character tragically dies, and it's sad, and it made me cry the first time I ever listened to it, and sometimes I still get a little emotional listening to it, because I just love it so much.
Well, we're talking about the stage and stage productions. You have done work helping with camps, actually build sets and do artwork, so...
I have, yes indeed.
What was that like? What were you working on?
Okay, so I've been doing set building for, I want to say this is my third year that I've done it. Um, we've done, yeah, this is my third year. Previous years, it was a smaller build. This year we built an entire pop open house, like a Barbie dream house.
What was the
And
show?
Adam's Family.
The Addams Family.
And previously we did Disney Descendants, and then we did Moana. But this year we did Adam's Family. And it's always really, really fun working with the kids. I'm the fun counselor. I'm the one that all the kids like to hang out with because I'm really laid back about things.
Yeah.
But it's like intense because we have to build an entire huge set in less than a month. And back in high school, we would build, our entire set in 3 months. And then, we have the same director from the high school running this camp, and he's very determined to put on very good shows.
And he does that very well. In high school, yeah, I think it was every Sunday during theater season. Every Sunday morning, there was set building day, and I tried to make it there pretty consistently. It was fun. You got to help build stuff. You got to help paint stuff.
I only started showing up after a lot of stuff was built so I could just paint because I'm not the best handyman.
I'm trying to think because obviously the high schoolers, we weren't allowed to manage power tools. I'm trying to think what we actually did when we showed up. A lot of it, was the arts and crafts section of it. Like if there were big planks of wood that needed to be painted, we would handle that. Yeah, set building's a lot of fun. If you're in a production right now and they're asking people for set building, do not slack and not show up, because directors notice that, and if you're going to keep auditioning for the same director, doing stuff like that, showing your loyalty to the program, they really appreciate it. And it might not get you the lead role immediately, but they take notice of it, and it could lead you to other connections in the future.
Also become a favorite.
That's a talk for another time. I think we should close out today's installment. Today went pretty quick, this episode.
No, it was like it was like the feature for your half of the podcast. It was really music based.
I tried to give you little prompts.
Well, no, the problem is that I did and still do a little bit of music here and there, so like I fed into it a lot,
Well, you know what? We can have masterpieces of music or art. It's our show.
I got my art feature today. It's fine.
It's our show. We do whatever we want.
Don't worry. I'll talk about I don't know, fan art and fandom culture in the next episode. How about that?
I mean, we touched on it, but I guess we could talk about that.
We touched on it, but I can go in depth.
All right, well, that's all for today's installment of Melodies and Masterpieces, the show by creatives for creatives. Thank you for listening to the very end. Don't forget to check socials if I ever decide to put them in the description of anything. I make music, Laurel makes art, and we all live happy days together. So thank you for listening. Have a good day or night, and don't forget to drink some water.
And eat food.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.